Selena Duarte was 53 years old when she realized that her entire adult life had been built on sacrifice. She thought she was boarding a train to freedom, but instead, she was walking into a nightmare. Betrayed by a man she trusted, sold like a possession, and trapped in a warehouse of horror. This is the true story of Selena Duarte, the woman who survived one of the darkest crimes imaginable and turned her pain into power. For decades, she had been the one holding everyone else together. Her children, her family, her colleagues at the small high school in Houston, Texas, where she had worked as a counselor. She was the steady hand, the listening ear, the voice that reminded others they mattered. But when the school bell stopped ringing for her after retirement, when her children were grown and living lives of their own, Selena found herself in a silence she had not known before. A silence that wasn't peaceful, it was hollow. She had given everything, her youth to raising her kids, her patience to a marriage that had ended after years of quiet heartbreak, and her energy to students who often leaned on her more than her own family did. She had been the dependable one, the caretaker, the one who always said, "Don't worry, I'll handle it." And now, with her 50s creeping further along, she looked in the mirror and wondered, who am I when no one needs me? Her children, Carla and Miguel, adored her. But they were grown. Carla was building her career in Atlanta, while Miguel was starting a family of his own in Dallas. Their calls were frequent but brief, filled with updates about promotions, bills, and baby showers. Selena smiled through it all, proud of them, but privately aching at the emptiness of her own life. At night, she would sit in her small kitchen, a cup of tea cooling in her hand, staring at the blank walls. She thought about all the years she had pushed her own desires aside. She once dreamed of traveling, of seeing the world beyond Texas, of standing on ancient ruins and hearing languages she didn't understand. But those dreams had been buried under years of practicality, mortgage payments, grocery lists, and the needs of everyone else. Now, the house was quiet. Too quiet. Selena often scrolled through Facebook, not looking for anything in particular, but hoping for a distraction from the heaviness in her chest. She would see photos of friends her age hiking in the Rockies, dining in Paris, or dancing at weddings, and she would feel a sharp sting. It wasn't envy. It was the haunting thought that maybe life had passed her by. Her reflection in the kitchen window told her the same thing every night. Is this all there is? The walls of responsibility that had once kept her family safe had now become her prison. She craved something, anything, that would make her feel alive again. Something that wasn't tied to being a mother, a counselor, or someone's ex-wife. She wanted to be Selena. Just Selena. But how? One evening, while scrolling through Facebook groups, Selena came across a community called Travel Over 50, Finding Freedom. It was filled with people just like her, men and women searching for meaning beyond their routines. They posted photos of trips, shared stories of heartbreak and healing, and offered encouragement to one another. Selena hesitated before joining. Social media had never been her world. But something about the name of the group tugged at her. Freedom. That was what she wanted most. Within hours of being accepted, she was greeted by dozens of welcome messages. Women around her age wrote things like, "You deserve adventure too, Selena," and "It's never too late to live your dream." For the first time in years, Selena didn't feel invisible. And then she saw him. Adrian Moreno. He stood out from the crowd. His profile picture showed him at the peak of a mountain trail, the sun behind him casting a halo-like glow. In another post, he was sitting on a beach in Costa Rica, smiling at the camera with effortless charm. He wasn't just posting pictures. He posted words, smooth, thoughtful words that cut straight into her heart. "Life doesn't give us do-overs," one of his posts read. "We either live fully, or we fade quietly. Which do you choose?" Selena lingered on his posts longer than she admitted to herself. Adrian was only 42, younger than her, but his comments were full of wisdom, encouragement, and warmth. Unlike many men online, he wasn't crude or shallow. Instead, he responded to others with patience, asking about their dreams and goals. When he eventually messaged her directly, Selena's heart raced. "I noticed your comment about wanting to see the world," he wrote. "Where would you go if you could leave tomorrow?" Selena laughed softly to herself, staring at the blinking cursor. She almost didn't reply. She almost closed the app, afraid of where this could lead. But then she typed, "Somewhere with history. Somewhere old and beautiful. Maybe South America. I've never even been on a plane outside the U.S." He replied almost instantly, "Perfect. Then South America is where you belong. You deserve it." From that moment on, Adrian seemed to be everywhere. His words slipped into her mornings with motivational quotes. His messages filled her evenings with long, thoughtful conversations about dreams, regrets, and second chances. He asked about her life in Houston, about her children, about her divorce. He listened with a gentleness that Selena hadn't experienced in years. When she apologized for oversharing, Adrian wrote, "Don't apologize. Most people never truly listen. But I want to know you." And Selena believed him. Within weeks, Adrian had become a fixture in her life. She checked her phone constantly, eager for his words. He told her she was strong, beautiful, and deserving of joy. He called her scars maps of survival. He praised her kindness, her resilience, her laugh. It felt intoxicating. Selena began to wonder if this man, this stranger on the other side of a screen, might be the one to unlock the door she had kept shut for so long. Adrian had a way of making her feel young again, as if the years of sacrifice had not been wasted but had built her into someone worth admiring. For the first time in a long time, Selena allowed herself to dream. What she didn't know was that Adrian had already seen the cracks in her soul. And he knew exactly how to use them. 3 weeks into their late-night conversations, Adrian casually dropped an idea that made Selena's heart race. "I'm planning a trip soon," he wrote. "A train journey through Mexico, all the way into Guatemala. It's breathtaking, the landscapes, the food, the history. You should come with me." At first, Selena laughed it off. She typed back quickly, "I don't even know you. My kids would kill me if I went off with a stranger on a train." But Adrian didn't push. He simply replied with patience, "I understand. I'd be cautious too. But think about it. You've given your whole life to everyone else. Don't you think it's time to do something for you?" His words hit her like a spark. Still, her mind filled with doubts. She imagined Carla and Miguel shaking their heads, scolding her for even considering it. They'd tell her it was reckless, dangerous, foolish. And maybe it was. But the longing inside her was louder than their imagined warnings. Adrian kept painting the picture. He described luxury train cars with velvet seats and glass ceilings, where passengers could watch mountains, forests, and rivers roll by in golden light. He spoke of old colonial towns with cobblestone streets, food markets bursting with color, and music drifting from every corner. "It's not just travel," he told her. "It's transformation. And I want you to experience it with me." Selena hesitated, her fingers hovering over the keyboard. That's when Adrian added the words that tipped the balance. "I'll cover most of the costs. 70%. All I want you to bring is your joy." Her heart thudded. "Just bring your joy." It echoed in her mind as if it were a prayer. She realized she couldn't remember the last time someone had asked her to bring joy anywhere. For years she had carried only responsibility, sorrow, and quiet endurance. Adrian was offering her a chance, not just at travel, but at rediscovery. Selena's children weren't convinced when she told them. "Mom, please," Carla said on the phone, her voice trembling. "You don't even know this man. What if something happens?" Miguel was quieter, but his silence spoke volumes. When he finally did speak, his words were heavy with worry. "Just be careful, Ma. Don't let someone take advantage of you." Selena listened, her chest aching with love for them. But she also felt a quiet resolve building inside her. "This isn't about him," she told them softly. "It's about me. For once in my life, I need to do something that's just mine." Her children fell silent. They didn't understand, not fully, but they could hear the determination in her voice. And so, on a humid August morning, Selena zipped up her suitcase. She had bought a new dress, had her hair braided for the first time in years, and packed a small notebook she had promised herself she would fill with memories of the trip. At the train station in Mexico City, she stood on the platform with her heart pounding. The massive locomotive gleamed under the sunlight, its polished cars promising adventure. Selena clutched her ticket, her palms damp with nervous sweat. When Adrian appeared, smiling, with his arm extended toward her, she felt a rush of something she hadn't felt in years: hope. This was it. The start of something new. Selena stepped onto the train, unaware that she wasn't stepping into freedom. She was stepping into a trap. The train lurched forward, its whistle echoing across the station as Selena settled into a plush seat by the window. Outside, the city blurred into countryside, green fields, scattered villages, and distant mountains rising like shadows against the horizon. Selena pressed her hand to the glass, her heart racing with a strange mix of excitement and unease. She had done it. She had stepped into something bold, something unpredictable. Adrian slid into the seat across from her, his smile warm and practiced. He leaned closer. "Beautiful, isn't it?" he asked. Selena nodded. "More than I imagined." He reached across the table and gently touched her hand. "This is just the beginning." For the first few days, everything seemed like the adventure he promised. The train glided through breathtaking landscapes, rolling hills dotted with cattle, lush jungles stretching endlessly, and small towns where children waved as the locomotive passed. Selena allowed herself to relax. At dinner, she and Adrian shared long conversations over candlelit meals in the dining car. Other passengers laughed and toasted with glasses of wine, and Selena felt, if only for a moment, that she belonged among them. She scribbled in her notebook every night before bed. Day 2. Saw the sun set over endless cornfields. Adrian says the colors reminded him of my smile. Day 3. Stopped in Puebla. The air smelled of spices. He bought me a bracelet from a street vendor. I can't remember the last time someone gave me a gift. But cracks soon appeared beneath the charm. On the 4th day, while the train paused at a station in Oaxaca, Adrian leaned in close and whispered, "There's a little guest house nearby. Not far. Off the beaten path. The real Mexico. Let's go tonight. Skip the tourist spots. You'll love it." Selena hesitated. The other passengers were making plans to tour the city's historic churches and bustling markets. The safe, obvious route. "Maybe we should stay with the group," she suggested softly. But Adrian chuckled, shaking his head. "The group only sees what's on the surface. I want to show you something real." His eyes held hers, and for a moment she felt the same pull she had the night he first messaged her. The promise of freedom. Of something more. Against her better judgment, Selena agreed. That evening, as the sun dipped low, they stepped off the train together. The streets of Oaxaca were alive with music and the scent of roasted corn. Tourists filled the plazas, laughing, snapping photos, bargaining at market stalls. But Adrian steered her away from the lights. Down a narrower street. Then another. The sounds of the city began to fade. Selena's sandals clicked against uneven stones as they moved further from the crowded center. The air grew cooler. The walls closer. Shadows longer. "Adrian," she whispered nervously, "where exactly are we going?" He flashed her a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Just a little further." Selena glanced back over her shoulder. The glow of the marketplace was already far behind them. Ahead, the streets were quiet. Too quiet. Her heart quickened. And though she didn't know it yet, Selena was walking straight into the darkest chapter of her life. The further they walked, the heavier Selena's chest felt. The cobblestone streets that once rang with music and laughter were gone now, replaced by narrow alleys lined with shuttered shops and walls marked with graffiti. The air smelled faintly of damp stone and exhaust. Selena slowed her steps. "Adrian, I thought you said it was close." He didn't stop. He didn't even look back. He just lifted a hand in a casual wave. "Almost there. Trust me." Those two words, "trust me," echoed in her head like an alarm bell. Her instincts screamed to turn around, but her legs betrayed her, carrying her forward. At the end of the alley, two men appeared from the shadows. Their faces were hard, their expressions unreadable. They stood beside a rusted metal door, blocking the path. Selena froze. Her pulse hammered in her ears as Adrian finally stopped walking. He looked at the men, gave a slight nod, and for the first time since she'd met him, his smile vanished. Selena's stomach dropped. This wasn't a shortcut. This wasn't a guest house. This was a handoff. "Adrian," she whispered, her voice trembling. "What is this?" He turned to her slowly, his eyes cold, his face unrecognizable. The charming man who had promised her joy and freedom was gone. "Wait here," he said flatly. His tone was sharp, commanding, like he was used to giving orders in situations like this. Selena's throat tightened. "Please," she begged. "I trusted you." For a moment, his lips curved into a smile, but it wasn't kind. It was cruel. "You think you're the first," he murmured. "You think you're the only woman who wanted to escape her life? There are dozens like you. And all of you come to me." Selena staggered back, shaking her head. "No, no, this can't be." Before she could finish, one of the men grabbed her arm, his grip iron-tight. She tried to scream, but Adrian leaned in, his face inches from hers. "No one's coming," he whispered. "Not for you." Her body went numb. The betrayal pierced deeper than any wound. As a blindfold was forced over her eyes and a gag shoved into her mouth, Selena's final glimpse of the world was Adrian's face, stone-cold, indifferent, as though she were nothing more than a transaction. The promise of adventure had been a lie. Selena had been sold. Selena's world turned into fragments of sound and sensation. The blindfold pressed hard against her eyes. The gag cut into her mouth. Her arms ached from the ropes biting into her wrists as rough hands shoved her forward. She stumbled over uneven ground, dragged like luggage, her sandals scraping against stone, then dirt, then concrete. Doors slammed. Locks clicked. Voices muttered in Spanish, low, sharp, efficient. She couldn't see, but she felt it. She wasn't being taken somewhere temporary. She was being delivered. When the blindfold was finally ripped away, the light stabbed her eyes. She blinked hard, and slowly the scene around her sharpened into focus. It was a warehouse. Vast. Abandoned. The ceiling stretched high into darkness, with only a few flickering bulbs strung haphazardly across beams. The floor was concrete, stained with patches she didn't dare identify. The air was thick with chemicals, bleach, disinfectant, and something else. Metallic. Sharp. Her stomach lurched when she realized what it was. Blood. And she wasn't alone. All around the room, women sat slumped against walls, wrists bound, heads drooping. Some stared blankly at nothing, their eyes hollow. Others trembled silently, lips cracked, faces pale with exhaustion and fear. Selena's knees buckled as her mind screamed, "This isn't trafficking. This isn't labor. This is something worse." A woman across the room lifted her head just enough to meet Selena's gaze. Her eyes, wide, empty, yet knowing, spoke without words. They were all trapped. All waiting. Selena opened her mouth to whisper, but before she could, one of the men barked an order and shoved her down onto the floor. Her body hit the cold concrete hard. She winced, the ropes digging deeper into her wrists. Her breath quickened. The gag muffled her cries. Panic rose in her chest like a wave she couldn't stop. And then, she saw it. A metal table in the far corner, under a single bright light. Beside it, trays of surgical tools, scalpels, clamps, tubing, buckets, machines she didn't recognize. Her heart stopped. This wasn't a holding pen. This wasn't about ransom. This was an operation. A system. An underground ring that didn't want their bodies for labor or pleasure. They wanted their organs. Selena's stomach turned violently as the truth slammed into her. The rumors she'd once dismissed as too horrible to be true, about tourists lured, then vanishing, were real. She was standing in the middle of it. A sudden clatter snapped her focus back. Two men in dark clothing entered, one holding a clipboard. They walked the rows of women like livestock, stopping at each, murmuring numbers, checking boxes. When they reached Selena, one of them crouched, tilting her chin up with gloved fingers. His eyes were flat, businesslike. He scribbled something on the paper, then moved on without a word. Selena shook uncontrollably. She had been marked. She wanted to scream, to fight, to run, but her body was already weakening, her mind foggy, her limbs heavy. Something was in her system. Something they had given her. The world blurred around her as her body sagged against the ropes. Her last clear thought before darkness pulled her under was chilling. I'm not a person to them. I'm inventory. Time lost meaning in the warehouse. Selena drifted in and out of consciousness, her body weak from hunger, dehydration, and the drugs that seemed to fog her mind. Every time she opened her eyes, she saw the same nightmare. Women slumped in corners, the glint of surgical tools, men pacing with clipboards like they were managing livestock instead of human beings. Her wrists were raw from the ropes. Her lips cracked and dry. Every sound made her flinch, the echo of boots on concrete, the creak of the metal door, the whispers of women praying under their breath. She didn't know how long she'd been there when a new figure appeared. Not one of the men. A woman. She wore scrubs, faded and wrinkled, and her dark hair was pulled back in a tight bun. Around her neck hung a stethoscope that looked more like a prop than a tool of healing. Her eyes, however, gave her away. They weren't cold like the men's. They weren't indifferent. They were heavy, sad, but soft. She walked slowly, as though she didn't want to be noticed, her steps measured, careful. When she reached Selena, she crouched down as if to check her pulse. Selena's breath caught. For the first time since she had been dragged into this hell, she saw something that felt like humanity. The woman's lips barely moved as she slipped something into Selena's trembling hands, a small folded piece of paper. Then she was gone, rising quickly, moving to the next woman, performing the same routine, making it look like she was just doing her job. Selena's fingers shook violently as she unfolded the scrap of paper. Her eyes blurred, but she forced them to focus on the shaky handwriting. It was in Spanish, the words slanted, hurried. She could only understand some of it, but enough. Stay awake by nightfall. Someone will come. Her chest tightened. Was it real? Could she believe it? Or was it a cruel trick, another way to torment her? But when she looked across the room, the nurse was watching her. Their eyes locked, and in that silent moment, Selena knew it was real. This woman was different. This woman was risking everything. The paper became Selena's lifeline. She gripped it until her knuckles turned white, whispering the words over and over in her head. Stay awake. Someone will come. Every bone in her body begged her to surrender, to let sleep swallow her, to give in to the weakness. But she fought it. She forced her eyes open every time they drifted shut. She bit her lip until it bled just to stay alert. She didn't know who was coming. She didn't know if rescue was even possible. But the note gave her something she hadn't had since the moment Adrian betrayed her. Hope. And she clung to it like it was oxygen. Selena's body screamed for rest, but her mind clung to the words on that scrap of paper. Stay awake. Someone will come. The warehouse fell into an eerie stillness that night. The usual shuffle of boots and the metallic clatter of tools were gone. Only the dim buzz of a flickering bulb filled the silence. Selena's eyes burned with exhaustion. Her head drooped forward, and every few minutes she jerked herself awake. She bit her tongue until it stung, dug her nails into her palms, anything to keep from slipping under. And then she heard it. A soft scrape at the side door. Her heart leapt, pounding so loudly she was sure the guards would hear it. She glanced around. The men who had been on duty earlier were gone, either asleep in another room or out on one of their grim errands. The door creaked open, just enough for two figures to slip inside. The nurse. And a man. He was tall, rugged, dressed in plain clothes that looked dusty from the road. His eyes darted across the room, sharp and alert. He whispered something to the nurse in Spanish, then crouched low, scanning the rows of women. The nurse moved quickly, her steps soft against the concrete. She reached Selena first, kneeling beside her again, her face tense. "Ahora," she whispered. The man produced a knife, small but sharp. He cut through the ropes on Selena's wrists, steady and silent. The moment the bonds fell, Selena gasped, the blood rushing back into her hands like fire. "Shoo!" The nurse pressed a finger to her lips. Selena nodded, tears brimming in her eyes. The man leaned close, speaking in accented English. "Name is Diego. We don't have much time." He motioned toward the back, where a service door stood half-hidden behind a stack of crates. Selena struggled to her feet, her legs trembling, her body weak. Diego steadied her with a firm grip, and together they began moving toward the crates. Every step felt like thunder in the silence. Every breath like a scream. They passed other women, eyes wide, faces pale with fear. Selena's heart broke, wanting to free them all, but the nurse shook her head urgently. "We can't," she mouthed. "Not tonight." The weight of that truth crushed Selena. But she kept moving. Finally, they reached the crates. Diego pushed them aside just enough to reveal the narrow metal door. He eased it open, and cool night air rushed in. Freedom! Selena nearly sobbed at the feel of it on her skin. But then, a shout. One of the guards had returned. The clatter of boots rang across the concrete as a flashlight beam cut through the darkness. Voices erupted, shouting orders, footsteps racing. "Go!" Diego hissed. He shoved Selena through the door first, the nurse following close behind. They stumbled into an alleyway, the sounds of pursuit exploding behind them. A van waited at the far end, its engine running. The driver slammed a hand against the roof in urgency. Selena's lungs burned as she ran, her bare feet slapping against the pavement, adrenaline propelling her forward. The nurse grabbed her arm, pulling her faster. Diego covered their backs, glancing over his shoulder as shouts drew closer. They dove into the van just as two men burst from the warehouse, guns raised, shouting in Spanish. The van screeched forward, tires spinning, gravel flying. Selena collapsed against the seat, gasping for air, her body trembling violently. The nurse clutched her hand tight, whispering prayers under her breath. For the first time since Adrian had betrayed her, Selena was outside those walls. But she knew one thing for certain, she wasn't safe yet. The van tore through the narrow streets, headlights off, engine roaring. Selena clung to the seat as the vehicle swerved left, then right, dodging potholes and abandoned carts. Her heart pounded so loudly she thought it would burst. Behind them, the distant whine of engines grew louder. "They're following us!" the nurse cried out, peering through the rear window. Diego's voice was calm, but urgent. "Hold on." The driver, a wiry young man with fierce eyes, slammed the wheel hard, sending the van down a side alley barely wide enough for its tires. Sparks flew as the side mirror scraped against a wall. Selena let out a gasp as the nurse pulled her close, shielding her. Gunshots cracked in the night. The sound echoed like fireworks, but deadly, tearing through the van's thin metal. Selena ducked instinctively, her body trembling. The driver cursed under his breath, jerking the wheel again. The van shot out of the alley and onto a wider road lined with dim streetlights. Ahead, Selena saw the blurry glow of traffic, civilization, people, safety. "Almost there," Diego muttered, his hand tight on the handle of a pistol hidden beneath his jacket. Another gunshot rang out, and the back window shattered. Glass rained down on Selena's shoulders. She cried out, but Diego grabbed her arm firmly. "Look at me," he said sharply. "Don't give in now. You've made it too far." The van screeched around another corner. And then, sirens. Not behind them. Ahead. Red and blue lights flared in the distance. The driver honked frantically, flashing his headlights in a coded signal. Moments later, 2 police trucks blocked the street. Officers jumped out, rifles raised. The pursuers slammed on their brakes, tires screeching. For a brief moment, chaos exploded, shouts, gunfire, engines revving. But within minutes, it was over. The ring of authorities swallowed the traffickers whole. The van finally skidded to a stop near the barricade. Selena's chest heaved as officers pulled the doors open, their voices sharp but reassuring. Strong arms lifted her out, guiding her toward an ambulance parked nearby. She collapsed onto the gurney, the cool sheet beneath her a shocking contrast to the concrete floor she had lived on for days. The nurse, Marisol, Selena finally learned her name, squeezed her hand one last time before disappearing into the chaos, her fate uncertain. Selena never forgot that touch. Weeks later, when Selena woke again, she was in a hospital bed in Houston. The white walls, the rhythmic beep of machines, the soft hum of nurses in the hall, it all felt like another world. Carla was at her side, her daughter's face streaked with tears of relief. Miguel stood in the doorway, his jaw tight, eyes full of guilt and love. "Mom," Carla whispered, pressing her forehead to Selena's hand. "You're safe now." Doctors told her the truth. She had been drugged heavily, malnourished, and one of her kidneys was gone. But she was alive. And that was more than many others had been given. Federal agents visited her soon after, notepads in hand, voices firm but kind. Selena told them everything, about Adrian, about the warehouse, about the women left behind. Her words became evidence. Her scars, proof. And then came the news that brought her the smallest measure of peace. Adrian had been caught. In a sting operation weeks later, he had tried to lure another woman online, repeating the same lies he had used on Selena. But this time, it was an undercover agent. The trap he had perfected for years finally snapped shut on him. In court, survivors testified. Evidence piled high. His face, once smooth with charm, was hardened with fury as the judge sentenced him to life in prison. Selena didn't attend the sentencing. She didn't need to see him again. Because for her, justice wasn't just about his punishment. It was about survival. Months passed. Selena's body healed slowly, but the scars went deeper than her skin. Her nights were still haunted by flickering lights and the metallic stench of the warehouse. Sometimes she woke gasping, her hands clutching at sheets as though she were still bound. The memory of Adrian's betrayal, the warmth of his smile turning to stone, burned sharper than any blade. But Selena refused to let those memories define her. In the hospital, surrounded by her children's unwavering love, she realized something. Survival had given her not just another chance at life, but a responsibility. She was not the same woman who once sat alone in her kitchen, scrolling through travel groups, longing for something more. That woman had been searching for freedom. This woman, scarred, shaken, but alive, understood what freedom truly meant. Selena began to speak. At first, it was small, a support group for women in Houston who had survived trafficking, violence, and exploitation. She sat in a circle of strangers and told her story, her voice trembling. She expected shame. Instead, she found strength reflected in their eyes. Word spread. Soon, organizations began inviting her to speak, churches, schools, women's conferences. She stood at podiums, her hands still shaking, but her words steady. She warned others about the dangers of online manipulation, about how easily loneliness could be exploited, about how predators could disguise themselves as saviors. But she didn't just warn. She inspired. Pain can break you, she told audiences. Or it can carve you into someone stronger. I was almost erased. But I am still here. And I will not be silent. Her story reached lawmakers, sparking new conversations about trafficking awareness and online safety. She partnered with organizations to advocate for survivors, ensuring resources were available for women who might otherwise have been forgotten. And though the nightmares still came, Selena met them differently now. She met them with defiance. With the knowledge that Adrian had not stolen her spirit, only sharpened it. At home, her children watched her with awe. Carla once told her, tears shining in her eyes, "Mom, I used to think you were just strong. Now I know you're unbreakable." Selena smiled at that. Because for the first time in her life, she felt whole, not as a mother, or a counselor, or a victim, but as herself. Not long after, she returned to Mexico. Not to retrace her trauma, but to reclaim her courage. She stood in Oaxaca's main plaza, where music drifted from balconies and lights glittered across cobblestones. She lifted her face to the night sky and breathed deeply, no longer afraid of the shadows. The same streets that once carried her into darkness now carried her back into light. Selena Duarte was not just a survivor. She was a voice for the silenced, a shield for the vulnerable, and a reminder that even in the darkest of traps, hope can still slip through. Sometimes in the form of a nurse's note, a stranger's hand, or the fire that refuses to die inside us. Her legacy was no longer sacrifice. Her legacy was survival. If you were moved by Selena's story, let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more true stories of survival, courage, and justice. Your support helps us keep sharing these powerful voices with the world. Selena's story is a reminder that evil often hides behind charm, and that survival is more than just living, it's fighting to reclaim your voice. From betrayal and captivity to courage and justice, she proved that even in the darkest places, hope can still rise. What are your thoughts on her journey? Do you believe stories like this can help others spot the warning signs before it's too late? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. And if this story moved you, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss more powerful true stories like this one. Asterisk.